Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, my name is Caitlin and this is my second channel where I upload beauty, fashion, lifestyle content and now obviously a little bit of pregnancy related content thrown in there. So if you are new to my channel, hi, my name is Caitlin, I'm 24 years old and I'm currently 18 weeks pregnant today, which is very exciting. I feel like this pregnancy is flying by. When someone said to me the other day that you are nearly halfway through your pregnancy, I actually couldn't believe it. But yes, so I wanted to do like a first trimester recap. So like I said, I'm 18 weeks, so I'm a little bit into my second trimester now. So I'm going to try and like talk about my first trimester without giving too much away about what I'm going through my second trimester. But now that I'm out of my first trimester, it's quite easy to sort of compare and realise what exactly was pregnancy related symptoms and experiences to do with the baby. I have no idea how long this video is going to be, so I apologise if it's a little bit rambly, but I've been loving watching these videos. I've been loving, in particular, Gemma Louise Miles, who's always been like a huge favourite of mine. She's been doing like pregnancy Q&As at different sort of milestones in her pregnancy, and I just find them really, really useful when someone like me, so I'm a first time mum, if I get a new symptom or something, or if I'm just experiencing something, feeling a certain way, it's nice to know that it's normal and that other people are going through similar things or the same thing. So if there are any other mums or expectant mums out there that maybe like are going through a similar sort of thing as me, can relate to something in this video, please do let me know down below so I'm not the only one. Also, I just thought I'd chuck in here very quickly that I do have an Instagram and a TikTok that I upload on regularly. Instagram was where I sort of announced my pregnancy, so they're sort of mostly where you'll see more frequent updates. And before we do get into the video, I've been rambling already. I am wearing a pyjama top, I'm not going to lie to you. This is a big oversized like pyjama shirt from Primark that I absolutely love. I put it on this morning sort of as loungewear while I was like getting ready and like doing some housework, and I don't want to take it off, to be honest with you, it's too comfy. So I think it's cute, so I apologise if you think I look like an absolute scruff, but here we are, just embracing the pyjamas. So yes, now let's move on into the actual video. So I thought I'd start off just by sort of running over how we found out that I was pregnant, when we found out, everything like that, just the very, very early stages that you guys sort of know, everything from the beginning. So my partner and I, we started trying for a baby at the start of this year, and we found out, I actually love the story of how we found out because it just makes me so happy. So we were sort of testing regularly, we were testing weekly once we'd started trying for a baby, purely because neither of us had obviously ever had a kid before, and we wanted to sort of keep an eye and track and just sort of understand how things work. So we were testing weekly. My period's always been very regular, and we just thought we wanted to keep things regular and just do sort of regular tests just to check up. Now, I'm very aware that weekly test is probably very excessive. We were also just very excited, so don't think you have to do weekly tests. But because of that, we did catch it very, very early. So we found out on the 13th of February of this year that I was pregnant, and at that point I must have only been about, I think the test, if I remember correctly, I've got a photo somewhere of me holding the test. It said 1 to 2 weeks on it, so it was very, very early when we found out. And the day we found out was a Sunday. Like I said, it was February 13th, so it was the day before Valentine's Day, but it was actually our Valentine's Day celebrations because we were both at work on the Monday. So we spent the whole day together just sort of doing cute things, like we'd gone out for a day shopping and we went out for a really nice meal. Like he proper took me out and spoiled me as our Valentine's Day, and then we got home and we just both went on a whim like, oh, should we do a test? Sunday wasn't normally the day we did tests, but we just had a feeling, both of us, it was really, really unusual. We both looked at each other and were like, should we do a test? And I think we partially thought we might have just gotten a bit caught up in having a cute little coupley day. So there is a reaction video, which like the gender reveal reaction video, I'm not going to put in just purely because my partner Dave doesn't really like being on the internet. So obviously I'm going to respect his choice there. But in this reaction video, you can see the genuine shock on both of our faces, considering we were trying for a baby actively and we were testing regularly. We'd had this feeling and we'd wanted to do this test, but neither of us actually expected it to be positive. And I just love the video. It's one of those videos that I will always keep forever because it just makes me so happy just to see the genuine shock on both of our faces, and then you just see the shock sort of melt away and just sheer happiness. And I feel like because we found out so early on in my pregnancy, it felt like the first trimester was the longest period of time ever, because obviously for many people, some people are different, I'm very aware, but we, like many people, chose to not tell anyone until our 12-week scan, because we wanted to make sure that everything was okay with the baby and with me. So we decided to wait until after we'd had our first scan and check up and everything, so that we could tell everyone about the baby and reassure them that we were both okay, me and the baby. But because we found out so early on, I was only about 1 to 2 weeks pregnant. I was very, very early on in pregnancy. It meant that it felt like we had to keep that secret for even longer. Most of the people that I know who found out they were pregnant, they found out when they were about 6 to 8 weeks pregnant. So I feel like because we knew pretty much the entire time, it bit us in the arse that we were so on it with testing, because we had to keep that secret, and it was so difficult, especially because I started showing so early on, and it became very, very difficult to hide it at work in particular, especially because I do work with I work with Dave's sister, so that's how we met. So keeping it a secret from her and hiding it from her every single day, while I had to wear like office wear. So normally I'd wear like tight office trousers and tight shirts tucked in. I all of a sudden had to start wearing my shirts untucked and leggings and like baggy things, because when I say that I started showing early, I didn't really take any bump photos to begin with, because obviously as much as I was showing, it's not really a bump. But everyone that had seen me in that period of time that didn't know I was pregnant will tell you now, I was showing very, very early. I had this bump that was never there before. I'd never really had a stomach, and it was obvious to those who knew, like as in if I pointed it out to you, it was really, really obvious. So I really, really struggled keeping it a secret at work. I also work in nightlife, so I have a mixture of like day shifts and night shifts in a bar. And when I started getting put on the night shifts, obviously I hadn't even told my manager or anything. I started getting this real panic, like that I had this extra person now to worry about their safety. It was always one thing, making sure that I was safe at work on a night shift with loads of customers and everything. But when I then started having to secretly be worried about my baby, which obviously it was a whole different experience. It was a proper shock. But then, so I feel like I want to be honest, but I don't want to scare anyone or put a downer on anything. I just want to talk candidly about my experience of first trimester. And I do know that a lot of women do struggle with the first trimester. I've been told by so many people that it is the hardest. And I think it also doesn't help that, one, you're keeping it a secret from everyone, so you feel like you're doing it just sort of alone. At least I had Dave, but it was still very isolating going through what I went through and what a lot of other women go through alone, keeping it a secret. You couldn't explain to anyone what was going on, but also because you can research pregnancy as much as you want, but you don't know how your body is going to react to pregnancy. So I knew that a lot of people struggled with their first trimester, and I knew, morning sickness and headaches. I just need to expect loads of potential symptoms, but until you're in it, you can't really fully prepare yourself. So I'd say it was around 7 weeks pregnant, maybe a bit earlier, somewhere between 6 and 8 weeks in pregnancy. It was quite early. I started experiencing, I'm going to say it was about 6 weeks, because I remember Googling it, because I was really concerned. So I started experiencing quite extreme morning sickness quite early on. And I remember Googling it, and a lot of the sort of websites that I'd seen and forums said that most women can expect to experience the worst of morning sickness between sort of 10 and 17, 18 weeks. I know it varies for everyone, but I started experiencing it very, very early, and it was very extreme to the point where it was like I'd hit a wall of nausea and fatigue, which again, I sort of prepared myself for. But it got to the point very, very rapidly within a few days. So like I'd still be going to work and stuff, but I'd really, really struggle, and I couldn't tell anyone why I was ill. Where my food aversions, so at this point I was just on, like crackers because of the sickness, plain foods. I just eat very little, what I could stomach. My ability to take those just plain food like crackers and things just went, and I could not stomach anything at all. I could not eat. And then it got worse when I couldn't drink water. I'd drink water or I'd try and eat something because I was so sick from hunger and weak, but it would all just come straight back up again. I'm not trying to be really, really gross. And this went on for a good few weeks. I really, really tried to push it. I probably did leave it a bit too late because I was just adamant, you know, that I've been told my entire life that pregnancy's hard. I knew it was going to be hard. And I just thought, you know, I've got to ride it out. This is pregnancy. It only feels bad because it's new and sensation. So just ride it out. You've got this, you know, you want to meet your baby, you want to be there for your baby, and you want to do it together properly. But when weeks had passed and I could barely stomach anything, the only thing at this point that I could stomach for some reason was oranges. All I was eating was oranges, and I couldn't stomach water. Very rarely I could stomach water. It would literally come, not even joking, straight back up. There was, I hit a week where on one of my days off, I could not get out of bed. Like, I was paralysed. Dave was at work, really, really worried about me. And I ended up contacting, obviously, my health professionals, because I admit to myself at that point, I was really stubborn, and I didn't want to be weak. I wanted to do this right. This sounds really silly, and a lot of you are going to be like, why did you think like that? Like, you should be cautious with pregnancy. But I just thought it was normal because obviously I've never done this before. I just figured, oh, this is what everyone's talking about. And then this one morning I just went, no, this is not right. I do not feel right. I cannot stomach water. Why am I putting myself through this and the baby through this? Something's going on. I just didn't want to go to hospital or my GP and then just laugh at me and go, oh, it's, you know, it's just morning sickness. So I contacted a few different healthcare professionals, and ultimately the decision was that I needed to go to A&E. Pretty sharpish. So Dave had to leave work early, zoom me over to A&E, and then he had to leave me there because of like the COVID restrictions still being on. He just had to leave me there, and bless him, it must have been so awful for him because he was so worried. He then just had to go back to work like nothing had happened, and I was in A&E for hours, for about 3-4 hours I think. There was about a 12-hour wait when I got in there for A&E, but because of what I was experiencing, because I was pregnant and it was very early on in pregnancy, they did move me forward once they realised that it wasn't just me being dramatic with morning sickness. So their initial sort of reaction was to treat the symptoms first, i.e. make sure that I get my fluids and everything in first so I'm not weak, and then decide what it is afterwards. Now, the next couple of days were kind of a blur for me. I got admitted pretty much instantly that evening once I got released from A&E with a few little helpful things. Like, they were like, just try do this and this, and then as soon as we have a bed available, you're in there, you're straight in. I think it was I can't remember what the unit was called, but it was something to do with like a maternal risk unit. So yeah, that night I was admitted there for a couple of days, and I don't really remember it, I'm not gonna lie to you, because at that point I was completely out of it, and they literally, as far as I'm aware, while I was there, they just fed me with fluids. I remember they weighed me before and after, and the weight, I can't remember the exact weight difference, but I put on so much weight while I was there just from these fluids, because obviously I was so malnourished, I guess, when I went in, when I was admitted, that I put on so much weight, and I felt so much better afterwards. And obviously while I was there, they did tests on the baby and everything was fine. They literally said to me, the easiest way to explain it was that I had given more than everything that I could in my body to this growing baby, and that my body had tried to adjust too quickly to pregnancy and just threw everything that it had at the baby to try and help it grow, and didn't leave anything for myself. So yeah, I was then told at this point that I would most likely be someone suffering with something called HG. It's a hyperemus gravidarum. I can't remember how to pronounce it, but it's essentially, from what I understand, just like a chronic morning sickness where throughout your pregnancy you are just experiencing morning sickness to the extreme. It's common, but it's not. It just means that in all likelihood the morning sickness period would be very, very, very bad for me, and it could potentially continue throughout my pregnancy. So it wasn't like a surefire diagnosis that they could give me, because they don't know, like I say, they don't know how your body's going to react throughout pregnancy. So it could just continue through the 9 months. Some people it does, some people it doesn't, some people it just lingers for longer, and then when you do get it, it's really, really bad. So this is what they explained to me, that the baby was healthy, because that was all I was worried about. And then obviously once we knew that, all Dave was then going was, is Caitlin going to be okay? And the answer was yes. There was nothing wrong with either of us. It just was an adjustment period. I was throwing everything at the baby, which makes me laugh. So I don't want to dwell on that too much because it seems really dramatic, and it obviously was scary at the time, and I felt awful at the time. And I'm not going to go into too much detail about how I'm feeling now because obviously I'll save that for when I'm out of my second trimester. But things did get better, so I'm a lot more myself now. Unfortunately, it just meant that for the majority of my first trimester, I was a zombie. I could not eat. And when I started telling people about the baby, like when we started announcing it to people, a lot of people, especially people that I worked with, went, oh my God, that makes sense because you were so ill. The main other difference, so obviously aside from me being really, really ill and sort of weak, it was the pregnancy fatigue, I think, that hit me the most. Because the sickness, I could just run to the bathroom, like that didn't bother me. While I was at work, it didn't affect too much. Like I felt sick, but it sounds really TMI, but you know when you're going to be sick. So if you feel sick and then you just know when that tipping point is, I could just run to the toilet. The pregnancy fatigue, however, was something that I really, really struggled with because I've never really been someone who's very fatigued. I wake up early and I go to bed late. I do loads in the day, and I'm someone that needs a lot of energy. I've always had a lot of energy, and that fatigue I really struggled with. That was a big adjustment. But aside from those sort of changes, the biggest adjustments were the little lifestyle changes that I had to make. Like no coffee. Well, I say no coffee, limiting your coffee. I am someone that is really, really bad, but since I was about 15, 16, because I've been self-employed for much of my life, and then I went to uni and worked 3 jobs at the same time, I've always had a lot of coffee. My tolerance for coffee is very, very high. So going from like a lot of cups of coffee a day suddenly overnight to like 1 or 2 coffees a day was an adjustment, but we're getting there. To be honest with you, what helped with that was in the period of extreme morning sickness, the smell of coffee threw me off. I could not stand it. And it's only sort of in the last few weeks, like coming to my second trimester, that I could start drinking coffee again because of the smell. So it wasn't too much of an adjustment. It was just an adjustment as an example, just sort of an adjustment to like diet changes. I've never had any allergies or anything really. I'm not a picky eater, so all of a sudden having to change my diet completely, not really, because I always ate pretty well, but obviously you have to learn about things that you should and shouldn't have. And in terms of pregnancy symptoms, obviously I've pretty much covered the big ones. So the sickness and the fatigue were the biggest ones I noticed. Aside from that, the main thing that I noticed, aside from bump growing very early, I think I'm just one of those women, sometimes someone doesn't pop until hitting the 3rd trimester. I just popped very early, was my skin. My skin broke out so much, like to the point where without makeup on, it looked like I was someone with chronic acne. So that was an adjustment more to my mental state because I'd never been someone with that many spots before. I'd had breakouts, I'd had periods of breakouts because I have oily skin and quite temperamental skin. So I remember in lockdown last year, I had a few months where my forehead just had loads of these like small spots on, like whiteheads. It was constantly bumpy and I'd hated it. It was the first time I'd ever had skin that bad. But this first trimester, my skin really kicked off at me. It was not happy, but obviously looking into it, I realised it was just the hormones going crazy in my body, and things again are a lot better now. My skin's clearing up. I knew it was going to be temporary and it didn't bother me too much. It was just another adjustment really. And when we found out, like sort of very early on when I started experiencing these symptoms, I started getting loads of videos on my TikTok For You page, like about old wives' tales, gender predictions for the baby. And obviously skin, I was always told, and I saw on all these old wives' tales, that if your skin breaks out during pregnancy, you're having a girl, according to these old wives' tales, because something about how it goes that the girl steals the mother's beauty or something like that. And a lot of the other old wives' tales actually pointed towards me having a girl. And pretty much from the get-go, I was adamant. For some reason, I just had this feeling that we were having a boy. But Dave was adamant we were having a girl. And then when we went for our 12-week scan and we saw the baby for the first time, up until that point, we'd just been calling him Peanut. We still call the baby Peanut. But I wish in that scan we'd been able to video it or something, because it was the first time we'd seen our baby. And when I tell you that baby was kicking, for some reason, I've never felt something so strongly. When I looked at the scan, I obviously cried because I was so hormonal. I was adamant it was a boy. Right, I had to clear some storage, so I apologise if anything looks different. But what was I saying? So yeah, pretty much all of the old wives' tales predictions were suggesting girl, and Dave was adamant it was a girl. Pretty much everyone told me that I was wrong, that it was a girl. Very few people, like my friend Shannon, was adamant it was a boy as well. We were just alone in this fight. And obviously, if you haven't seen my announcement anywhere, I am having a boy. I'm sure if you are watching this video, you've probably already seen the gender reveal because I posted a vlog about it. I know that's creeping into sort of second trimester territory, but I just thought I'd include it because it has obviously already been announced and everything that we're having a little boy, and we're both so excited. I'll also pop up a little photo of how we told everyone that we were having a baby. So in terms of families, we told them obviously in person. We went to each family separately. So if you didn't know, if you are new to my channel, I currently live in Stoke-on-Trent with my partner. It's where him and his family live. Obviously, it's where we met. But I'm originally from Essex, so it's quite a trek away. I moved up here about 6 years ago for uni. So telling the families was quite an organisational challenge because we didn't want either to know too far apart from each other. Like, we didn't want one family to know like weeks before the other, but we wanted to tell them both in person. So we did that with Dave's family. We gave them a tiny little pair of baby shoes in a gift bag. They had no idea. And then with my family, we got scanned photos printed off, and there was a little card. I'll include a photo because that's how we sort of announced it on Instagram and things. A little card that I got from Etsy that said on the outside just a little note to say, and then on the inside was a scan picture, and it said baby Rose One Halaz is on its way. That's how my family found out. And then obviously we posted these photos on Instagram and Facebook. I do have a photo of me and Dave reacting to the canon for the gender, but again, obviously because Dave doesn't really like to be on social media, I won't include that. The longer I talk for, the more things I remember about the first trimester. So obviously, just a little tangent, I made notes to make it all organised, but I just keep forgetting. In terms of food aversions, aside from just the general sickness, the biggest food aversions that are still stuck with me now, but the really prominent sort of once the sickness died down a little bit and I realised were just aversions. For some reason, aside from coffee, that was the biggest shock. I could not stand meat. Like the texture of meat, the look of meat, I just did not want any of it. And we used to have a lot of corn, you know, like the meat substitute. That used to be a really key piece of like food in our diet. I couldn't stand it. I think it was the texture of meat would just put me off. And even now, again, creeping into second trimester territory, there's only select few meats that I can stomach now, which is a real shame because baby's craving meat a lot of the time. I want protein. There's only very few meats that I can actually stomach, so that's really, really strange. And oh my goodness, how can I forget the most obvious one? The first symptom that I experienced, I need to wee all the time. I thought people might exaggerate a little bit when they say how much your bladder just needs to be released all the time. I did not expect it to be this regular and this frequent until I got bigger, because I assumed, oh, when my bump's big and baby's bigger, he's pushing on my bladder. No, ever since the beginning, I have had to wee, like, I'm not even joking, every 20 minutes. And it's just getting more and more frequent. So I think that's where I'm going to end the video, because I don't want to compare too much with, like I said, with how things are now, because I want to save that for its own video. But yeah, it was a very emotional roller coaster the first trimester. But like I say, just a little hint, it does get better. Like, I do feel so much better now. And obviously I don't want to scare anyone. I'm perfectly fine now, and baby's fine. I wouldn't change it purely because I got to know the baby's fine and the baby got everything that he needed. So please don't be scared by my experience. I know some women have had it worse, and people have it very, very easy. I know people that didn't even have any morning sickness throughout their pregnancy, and if you're one of those people, I say I'm extremely jealous of you. But all in all, I feel fantastic. Even the first trimester, I was just so excited that I was having a baby. I'm so excited to bring my little boy into the world, to meet my son. And to me, it's all just one big learning curve. Like, it's all one big experience. This is my first time. So just I'm trying to enjoy every second of it, and I really am. So if you have any other questions about my pregnancy or anything, or any other videos you want me to do, then please do leave them down below. I'm going to end this video here because it has obviously been very, very waffly. But thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this, and I'll see you guys very, very soon for another video. Thanks for watching. Bye.